Now, as we switch to new Nearpod slides, you have the codes embedded into the Google Slides, as always, for these new Nearpod slides. We're going to talk about something called symbiosis. And symbiosis is going to give us 4 of our vocabulary words for this week. It's going to give us symbiosis, obviously, commensalism, mutualism, and parasitism. And it's important for us to know that symbiosis is the relationship between 2 organisms in a community. You could see here that this flower, living thing, and this butterfly, living thing, have a very specific relationship within their community, within the ecosystem. The butterfly gets food from the flower, and when the butterfly is flying from flower to flower, it's pollinating other flowers, allowing the flowers to reproduce. So they have a very special relationship. Now, this is almost like when we were looking back at consumers. Consumers is the broad term. All things have relationships with each other. Depending on what type of relationship it is, it's going to have a very specific name. So symbiosis is like consumer. It covers all of the relationships. Symbiosis is a relationship between 2 organisms. But we need to figure out the types of relationships and why they change names. So symbiosis, and you know me, I love to break down words, and we're coming back to this word bio. Remember, bio is a Greek word that means life, and sim means together. So this symbiosis means life together or living together. And things in a community, most definitely, because that's all the living things, they live together, and some of them have relationships where they interact with each other more so than not. For example, the sea anemone and the clownfish have a very special relationship. Again, I'm kind of bummed that we're not at school because I enjoy watching these videos and having the conversations with you about symbiosis. But it's something that it's a very special relationship. So again, relationship of 2 organisms in a community, symbiosis. So when we're talking about that, you know that 2 organisms are interacting. Now let's look at how these interactions can be different. The first type of symbiosis is called commensalism. That is commensalism. Commensalism is a relationship between 2 organisms where one of the organisms actually gets something of benefit. It gains something. Where the other organism, it doesn't get anything. It's not helped, nor is it harmed. It really gets nothing out of the relationship. And now you think, well, Mr. Bones, what is an example of that? Well, right here we have these little fish swimming around sharks, and they're called remoras. They don't really help the shark, and they don't really hurt the shark. Even though on the top of their heads, about right there, is like this little sucker thing where they can like attach themselves to a shark, as you can kind of see under here, like right here. It doesn't hurt the shark. It doesn't help the shark. But how does that help the remora? Well, when the shark goes along, and if you've ever seen a shark eat, they're pretty messy eaters. They're ripping and tearing, and little bits and pieces of the fish that they kill are flying all over the place. That's when these guys here swim out real quick, grab a meal, and go back and attach themselves to the belly or the side of the shark. They're getting a big benefit out of that. They're being taken to food sources. They don't even have to hunt for their food, really. The shark does it for them. They just jump off, grab some food, and jump back on the shark. So they are getting a benefit. This is one example of commensalism, where one organism is helped. It gets a positive out of it, but the shark, he gets nothing out of this. It doesn't help him, and it doesn't hurt him. So that's a good thing for the shark, right? I mean, it doesn't bother him, so why not have a commensalistic relationship? And it does help the remora. That is commensalism. Our second form is probably the one that I think people are going to like the most, is mutualism, or a mutualistic relationship. That is when there's a relationship between 2 organisms and they both get a positive benefit. They both benefit. Now, we've seen these guys before, the sea anemone and the clownfish. And I do want to do something really quick. Let me pause my video so I can do this real quick. All right, I know this is like instantaneous for you, but it was a few moments for me. So we're looking at the clownfish and the sea anemone. And again, I don't think you understand how much I love being at school and we can have these fun conversations. But I don't think that anyone has ever looked at this fish for quite a few years now and said, ooh, there's a clownfish. I would imagine that most of us go, ooh, look, there's Nemo. I do want to show you something that's pretty cool. And it's probably how, I don't know for sure, but it's probably how this happened. And I think it's very cool. But when you watch Finding Nemo, Nemo and his dad, they live inside of a sea anemone. But the one thing that I noticed is I'm imagining they're sitting in the Disney studios. They're talking about this new movie, and they've got the process of, hey, we've got this, this fish and his dad, and he goes on all these adventures, and they're like, oh, this is a great story. How are we going to come up with a name for this fish? And I'm thinking that they found the name right here. Now, I might be wrong about that. I'm going to go with my guess on that, though, because I think it's very neat how in the scientific names of something, we get probably one of our favorite, and some people's absolute favorite, Disney characters. And I think it's really interesting to look at that. So I don't know if this is where Nemo came from or not. It sure is awfully coincidental that his name is embedded inside the thing that the clownfish live inside of. But I don't know. So I'll let you look that up on your own. Maybe you can find that and send me a link, because I would like for you to get interested in science. I think that's very interesting if that's the way that happened. So we're back to mutualism, because the sea anemone and the clownfish have a very, very special relationship. There is a video embedded in this. I would ask that you watch it, because it's amazing how much these two actually work together. The clownfish and the sea anemone are mutualistic. They both help each other. Now, the sea anemone is a fairly like venomous type of thing that lives in the ocean. And most things that get near there get stung by the anemone and they die. But the clownfish has a very special slime. That's the best way I can describe it. On the outside of it, it stops it from being attacked. So it is allowed to live inside of the sea anemone. Why is that important? How does this benefit the clownfish? Well, number one, other fish can't really come around the clownfish because it's being protected by the sea anemone. So that's the benefit that the clownfish gets. What benefit does the sea anemone get? Clownfish are extremely territorial. They will chase away other fish that try to come near the anemone, and they protect it from other fish that'll be harmed. So they both are helping each other. That's a mutualistic relationship. That's the kind of relationship you want to have. You want to have friends that help you, and you help your friends, because that's the type of relationship that everyone benefits the most from. Mutualistic. Again, I can't recommend the video embedded in here enough about clownfish and sea anemones. It's really, really interesting. And let's take a look at our third and last type, the grossest type, in my opinion, of symbiosis. Now, remember, symbiosis is a relationship between two organisms. This is the creepiest of them all. It's called parasitism. Parasitism is a relationship where, and we can see this is probably like a super close-up view of a dog, where one organism lives in, that's right, in, some things get inside of things like tapeworms and stuff, or on, which is what this tick is doing, another organism. Now the tick is benefiting. He's got his head buried pretty deep in this dog's skin, and he's drinking the blood of the dog. The tick gets huge benefits. He gets like a free lift. He's protected for the most part because he's under the dog's fur, and he gets food. However, this can harm the other organism. Ticks carry diseases. And a lot of times, the host is harmed by the tick. I play disc golf. It's one of my favorite sports. And one of my favorite disc golfers, Ricky Wysocki, was bitten by a tick last year playing on the tour, because a lot of the disc golf thing are in the woods. And he got something called Lyme disease. Now, obviously, the tick benefited. Ricky Wysocki did not benefit. He was out of disc golf for pretty much most of the end of all of last year, and he's just now starting to get better. Obviously, a lot better because he just won the last tournament, but it took a long time to get better because it was a parasitism. Whoa, parasitism. Get off of there. Where the tick is benefiting, but the host is actually harmed in that relationship. That has helped me and you cover the 4 new vocabulary words for today. And remember, symbiosis covers these 3 terms. Symbiosis is just a relationship. And we know that there are 3 types of relationships. We have one where one organism benefits and the other one is harmed, and that's called parasitism. We know that there's one type of symbiosis where both organisms benefit, and we call that mutualism. And we know that there is one type of symbiosis or relationships where one organism benefits, but the other organism really isn't harmed in any way, nor does it get any benefit. It really is unaffected by the relationship. And that is commensalism.